the implication of which payments were deducted from payments, particularly for the professional fees for lawyers engaged, were deducted from the source, even before the money is remitted into the coffers of the federal government. That was the existing and prevailing background before the coming in place of Muhammadu Buhari's government. And then two, the amount that was being deducted then as professional fees for services rendered in the recovery sense ranged from 10% and 30%. So when this government comes into place, His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari sought for my opinion as to the recovery process, and I suggested that I think the reasonable amount that could be charged for the services rendered, it should naturally be not above 5%, taking into consideration the volume of the money concerned. And then I equally suggested, in the interest of transparency, all monies should first get into consolidated revenue account first, and then thereafter processes should be conducted, which process is being consummated by the Ministry of Finance for the payment of recovery fees in the interest of transparency. And I equally suggested to Mr. President that we should embrace and accommodate civil society organizations so that things could be done transparently, and then the world will know what we are doing in terms of transparency and accountability. Mr. President graciously accepted my proposals relating to 5% as the maximum ceiling, relating to payment into consolidated revenue account first before payment of professional fees, and then the proposal relating to the accommodation of the civil society organizations. And then we now open the floor for all recovery agents that are interested to be engaged by the federal government to come over and make proposal for the recovery of the stolen assets. It was against this background that a lot of lawyers, both local and foreign, filed in application and proposals for the recovery of recovered assets. Of particular interest to the $321 you are talking about, the key lawyers that filed in proposals are one, Monfrini, I believe a foreign lawyer, of Enrico Monfrini, a foreign lawyer, I believe from Swiss. I'm not certain whether he is from Swiss origin, but he's a foreign lawyer anyway. And then one other lawyer, law firm by name Oladipo Officially, who is a senior advocate of Nigeria. A point of interest relating to the application of Enrico Monfrini was that his application was facilitated by a former president.
Honorable Minister, I'm not cutting you short because that Swiss lawyer or Swiss-based lawyer is arguing that there's an initial agreement between federal government and him that nobody will entertain such a case at the Swiss except him alone. You say it is part of the former agreement they reached with the federal government. I
will take you through. The former, truly there existed an agreement before then for him to make recoveries, and the range within which he was being paid was within between 10 to 30%. And the deductions were from source, and no payment had to be made into the coffers of the federal government before his charges or his fees were paid. There was that agreement, and he was indeed paid an amount which was not clear as to the context and the extent of what services he was to render. Whether these $321 million were part of it or not is something that we'll discuss later. But the point of interest relating to it is, as at the time this government come into being, the $321 million was not paid by to the federal government of Nigeria by the Swiss government, and it was a subject of judicial litigation pending before a court in Swiss. So that is a point of interest as far as that aspect is concerned. Now, when an applications were entertained by Manfrini, among others, in his own case too, he was seeking to be engaged for the recovery of the $321 million, among others. You understand? But then his demand was within the range of 20 to 30%, as against the 5% conventional amount approved by the president for the recovery of the money. So the Nigerian lawyer, on the other hand, provided a proposal for 5% recovery fee. So that was the background against which I wrote a letter of engagement after pleading with Mr. President to allow for the Enrico Manfrini to be considered, against the background of the fact that he has a record of participation before now, which participation was the range between 20 to 30%. And then I now tried to convince Mr. President to allow a special consideration for him of 10 to 15%